M Live's own, the man, the myth, the legend, to break it down for us. I know that man's been busy too. He's been going on the radio, doing podcasts, and today
does it all.
We're grateful enough to be joined by him. So please welcome Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons beat writer for M Live, Mr. Kory Woods. Kory, welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing?
You cut your hair.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Kory, I didn't lose a bet either. I didn't lose a bet. This is.
Oh, I'm like, oh man, look, is he auditioning for like a movie role or something?
Well, you know, like, Kory, I woke up, I said, man, that's too much work. You know, it's hot. It's like 90 degrees. I'm like, man,
that's fair. That's fair.
You know? So I'm it's weird. I kind of feel like my hair's been going back for so long. It feels like I got like a receding hairline back there. But hey, it's here nor the here or there. We got you.
Yeah, it definitely looks like you were about to enlist it. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I'm gonna leave you alone though.
Yeah, you know, that's fair. I appreciate you, Kory. Kory, I want your thoughts. Pistons were busy over the weekend. JB Bickerstaff. We'll get to that in a second, but I just want to introduce everything by asking you about the Tobias Harris deal. What'd you think of the signing? I know we kind of expected it in a way, but what'd you think of the price point, and who are the Pistons getting in Tobias Harris now returning to the Detroit Pistons?
Well, first off, I thought the move was pretty smart. I said that if the Pistons got him between 20 and 25 million per year, it's a good deal. They got him at 26. I'm not about to go ahead and go crazy over an extra $1 million, especially when they can have an extra $8 million, exception they can kind of play around with. So it's a good deal. Here's the thing. People are like, oh my God, we brought Tobias. They brought Tobias Harris back. They brought Tobias Harris back. Okay, let's look at what Tobias Harris did during his time with the Philadelphia 76ers. This guy almost averaged 18 points per game, around 48% shooting from the field, 38 from beyond the arc. Let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons were 14-68 last season. Again, they were 14-68 last season. The season before, they were 17-65 that season. I'm going to repeat. They were 17-65 that season. You mean to tell me that an 18-point per game guy who shoots at that clip cannot help a 14-68 team? What are we talking about here? It is a smart signing. You're not about to go get Paul George. You're not about to go get any of these top free agents when you're a 14-68 team, no matter how much cap space you got. This is not NBA 2K. You cannot just overpay a person and they come there because it's a simulated game. It's a smart move. It's been rumored since last December. You got a guy that wants to come back to Detroit, and instantly he's your second best three-point shooter. He adds to the spacing that you desperately needed to put around Cade Cunningham. And then, I know you're probably going to ask me about THJ later, but you have two savvy veterans that you can put around a young nucleus. Instantly, Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. is better than Bojan Bogdanovic, who was 35 years old, coming off an Achilles injury, and Alec Burks. So I don't understand what Pistons fans are being mad about. It is when you look at the NBA salary cap, there are two things. One, the cap is always rising. Second, you have to spend 90% of the cap before the season starts, either by free agent acquisitions or through trades. So that means that you're going to have to spend that money or cut the NBA check with the difference. You got a guy that can come in here and aid along this process. The 26 per million per year is not egregious. I know people want to say the 76ers were trying to get rid of him before. Yeah, that's because they couldn't get rid of him because his contract was too big. It was 36 per year. That's a hard contract. 26, easy to move on, 2-year deal. Next year is basically kind of a rebuild. So boom, year 2 of Tobias' contract. It's an expiring deal. You got money to play with, either at the trade deadline to go acquire an all-star level talent if you're there, or it's an expiring deal. You get off from under 2 years. I just think that people are just looking at it and just want to make a quick hot take instead of just looking at the basketball value and the business value of the deal.
He woke up shows violence today. I like this.
I think that was very, very well said from Kory. Honestly, that was this morning. So, Kory, if you didn't know, last week I got an argument about the Tobias thing, and my side of things was the getting locked down in contracts, 4 years, 3 years. I was worried about that because it felt like in the past, Pistons. But Trajan Langdon seems like he's very dialed in with what he's doing in building. To when I woke up this morning, that deal came out. Okay, 2 years, I can deal with that. I think. Like you said, Tobias is an NBA player, and he's a high-level one. He's not going to be a Paul George, but he's going to go out there and do something for you, and he's going to provide to this team. But the extremes on both sides to it. That was where I was at with Tobias. Like for you, the people who are like, this won't work. Like Tobias is going to come in and help the team out. At the same time, for people thinking he's going to be Paul George, he's not going to do that either. So that was my kind of pushback with the Tobias stuff. But I'm happy they did it for 2 years, 26. Like that's deal.
It's a good number. It's not egregious. You have to use it on somebody, and why not use it forget the first stint. You want to say that Tobias Harris is coming off of a bad playoff stretch? How about this? The Pistons have not been in the playoffs in about 5 seasons. So, I mean, hopefully you can get a guy that can produce at that clip to even get you toward a play-in. So I just don't, again, I don't understand it. If you just look at his body of work, last year he was the 3rd leading scorer on the Philadelphia 76ers behind Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. You put him on this Pistons squad, and with the way that Cade Cunningham now has a guy that he knows he can dish the ball to and can actually go create his own shot and short and go score, you might see Tobias Harris this year go from that 17 points per game to maybe around 20, 21, just playing with a facilitator like Cade Cunningham. Again, I just think that it's for the number and for the number of years, it's a smart deal.
Yeah, and I do want to ask this too real quick, Kory, just the other side of things here with Tim Hardaway Jr. That happened a couple of days as well ago, and Trajan was able to kind of get assets for that. What do you think Tim will kind of bring to this team? Played at Michigan, so he's familiar with the state. But kind of the way that Trajan brought him in to bringing assets, is that like something you're going to see from him the next couple months as well with Tim, like the Tim Hardaway style?
I mean, absolutely. Tim Hardaway off rip. Again, another guy similar to Tobias Harris. Tim Hardaway was the 3rd leading scorer for the Mavericks last season. And that was off the bench. He didn't have the greatest playoffs, but again, hey, whatever. You're now bringing a savvy veteran who can add to the spacing, who is a solid 3-point shooter to your roster. This guy can probably, I'm not going to sit up here and say start or anything like that, but at bare minimum, Tim Hardaway Jr. is your 6th man and probably one of the best 6 men you've had in recent years. Guy's averaging about 14 points per game with the Mavericks. I believe it's fair to say that he's going to get more shots playing with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivy, 2 guys that are willing passers, as opposed to 2 ball-dominant guys who kind of work for themselves with Luka Doncic, even though he does drop dimes, and Kyrie Irving. So, I mean, and also too, it's another smart deal. You got the 3 second-round picks, and also Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract is expiring. So next year we enter right back into free agency with that off the books. I mean, like. You got to surround this team with some solid veterans for this rebuild to go. And I mean, the moves that they're making are smart moves, moves that you can arguably should say that the previous regime should have done. You're adding assets that make you financially flexible, but solid veterans that can also help with this rebuild.
Yeah, and Kory, obviously the Pistons got a new head coach, JB Bickerstaff. I just wanted to know your confidence level in him, and how can this head coaching job relate to his past one in Cleveland?
Well, he went through a similar rebuild. He went through a similar rebuild with Cleveland. I mean, with the way they kind of started off slow in the first couple of years as they're trying to get things together. And now over the past 2 years, they have been second in the NBA Central. I mean, JB Bickerstaff, let's talk about it. Over the past 2 seasons with the Cleveland Cavaliers, JB Bickerstaff has won 99 games. The Pistons have not won a collective of 99 games in 5 years. So off rip, it's a solid hire just off of that alone. But no, he's a guy that's a developer of talent. Worked with some solid guys such as Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, a young and up and coming big with Jalen Duren and Jared Allen. So there's some similarities there when you look at the Pistons. When you look at the Pistons makeup, and also too, he's still relatively young, which is the crazy part when you think about JB Bickerstaff. He's 45 years old, but he already has over 20 years of coaching experience. I mean, that right there is, I believe it's a solid move. And I mean, what more do you want me to say?
Yeah, well, real quick before Lucas goes, I just want to ask you, because I did a video breaking down JB Bickerstaff, and the thing I'm I didn't want it to sound like the Pistons were settling because I think he's a very good head coach. And I think he was given a raw deal and every opportunity he's ever had. Man. That man has taken the toughest jobs. And he just got an opportunity with the Cavs, and it was a pretty good roster, and they were pretty good defensively. But Kory, do you think this is more of a hire? And I got to watch how I say this, but in my mind, to get the team back on the rails rather than thinking long term. Like, I know when people hire a coach, it's like, oh, a champion. Are you trying to hire a championship coach? Do you think he's a guy like get your locker room straight, get the culture set, get these guys back to just trying to build a winning culture? Like, what do you think that what from Trajan's perspective, what do you think hiring JB Bickerstaff was? Do you think he believes in him to that extent where he can be a head coach for a while?
I mean, I'm not Trajan Langdon, but I'm going to say this. I don't understand. I understand what you're trying to say. Don't get it twisted, because you're trying to say, could he be the guy that gets you to the guy similar to when the Pistons hired Rick Carlisle and he brought them back to a respectable level, but he couldn't get them over the hump. So boom, you fire Rick Carlisle, bring in Larry Brown, championship. So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't think you necessarily go into it looking like that. I mean, obviously they're looking for a guy that is going to be able to develop this young talent, be a leader, unify that locker room. I mean, just look at it's been such a turnover over the past couple of years. I mean, the trio, should they stay together, and regardless of whether they stay together or not, this will still be a fact. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Jaden Ivy are going to be on their third head coach in 3 consecutive seasons. So that is it. I will say this about the hire. I'm not going to sit up here and say it's like a bridge hire, but I do think that you have to have brought. I think they felt they brought in a coach that could develop this group.
Right.
If he's able to get the most out of them and then take them to that level, I mean, who knows how it turns out? But I just kind of like I get what I just want to say. I get what you're saying, but I believe they just looked at this like, hey, we've seen what JB Bickerstaff did with the Cavaliers. You could argue that he should have kept his job. I mean, They lost to the eventual NBA champion, and you were down 2 of your best players to injury. So I see what they're doing here. I think it's a solid hire.
And then to follow that up, do you think with his experience with Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, what do you think, at least in your opinion, that means for maybe a Cade and Jaden Ivy? Because I feel like the last couple of months it's been trade Ivy, trade Ivy, trade Ivy. Do you think there could be a chance that they kind of let this thing rock and see how Ivy and Cade play together before making any decisions like that? Because it seems like every time Pistons fans want to go acquire a big-time player, it always starts with Jaden Ivy. What are your thoughts on those two in the backcourt this year?
Well, just off of what I'm talking to from Trajan Langdon, when he talked to us, it seems like he at least wants to keep aspects of that young core together. He didn't really get into names. I mean, I think we can pretty much safe to surmise that Cade Cunningham is the one player that they don't want to go anywhere. Hence them ready to sign him to an extension. I don't think he's really trying to break up that young group just yet, but also at the same time, I just went and kind of repeated it. They were a team that went 14-68 this past season, and then 17-65 the season before. I think outside of Cade Cunningham, anybody could probably be on the trade table, on the trade market for the right deal. I don't think it's gotten to a point where you just get rid of Jaden Ivey just to get rid of him. You brought in a shooting specialist such as Fred Vincent, and you've heard of the work that he's done with Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones. The Pistons were 24th and 26th, respectively, in shooting from the field goal range and 3-point range last season. So I think that you might see them try to run this group back at least one more time, unless they just get a deal that blows their socks off.
Yeah, he didn't draft him all these players anyway, so that's fair.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel attached to him. And Kory, I guess to Gentry's and Jeff, like their question combined then, and you might have already answered this, and I want to just make sure, like, I'm kind of when I'm looking at this, because one of the biggest things for me was like when I look at Bickerstaff's time in Cleveland, he started off, I think it was a 20-win season, 21-win season, and then all of a sudden it's a 40-win jump. And that, at least to me, feels like it was because he was able to get everything out of the young core. But on top of that, they went from 40 to 50. They went and got Donovan Mitchell. So, like, do you see, and outside of, because this is kind of where Jeff kind of asked the same question, outside of Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, more so for me at least, like Beef Stew, like Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, or even some of these other pieces at the, like, Marcus Sasser, do you think at all like there is any chance where Trajan does get an offer, whether it's like, say, going into this year, we were talking about it earlier, Julius Randle or the Brandon Ingram thing, to where they're like, hey, we know what Bickerstaff can do. We know we have a couple guys like Caden, Jaden, that can make these and that can play, and Tobias. Do you see Trajan just being like, let's do it? And if so, like, are there any players that you've heard or on your radar where you're like, yep, that's an actual possibility for this Pistons team this season to take that jump from 14 wins?
Well, I do believe that they're going to go out there and look for another rim protector. I mean, it's no secret if you watched the team last season, Jalen Durant, as athletic as he is, and as many nights we've seen flashes of his greatness, he took a slip defensively in the low post. So I do believe that there is an area that they're going to go out there and look to address. And again, they still need to go out there and address their shooting. So, a couple of guys that I thought they would were trying to target when free agency starts. They just went ahead and went back to their respective teams. One of those guys was Malik Monk, and then when you want to go into like the whole center talk, Nick Claxton, he went ahead and returned back there. So I think that was I think if Nick Claxton was out there, they might have been able to go make a run at him. I will say that I am shocked that they let Andre Drummond go back to the Philadelphia 76ers. Here's why. I think that his past 2 years with the Chicago Bulls, he really reinvented himself, made a name for himself as at least a quality backup. I thought that would have been a solid move to bring him back to back up Jalen Durant, or if you want to kind of stagger their minutes a little bit, because he had some solid ball last year. I think he was 17th in rebounding. That's in the league, and that was coming off the bench. And I mean, I'm kind of, and then you saw the Hartenstein move. So I don't know where they're gonna go next. If there's somebody that I think that they should go after, I think you got to look at a Xavier Tillman, a Daniel Theis when you're trying to go for that center position. And then if you wanted to go for your shooting, Buddy Hield is still out there. And I think they could probably get Gary Trent Jr. on the shoot, because there's word that his value has diminished a little bit. He lost a little bit of his role last season with Toronto. I think if you go ahead and bring him here to Detroit and get him on a nice deal, he may be able to reinvent himself here and, get him on a nice cheap deal.
Yeah, Kory, I just wanted to ask you about Ron Holland. And also, I appreciate you taking the time out of your vacation. It just started today, so I appreciate you taking the time for us. Ron Holland, what are your expectations, and how does he fit into this lineup moving forward?
I mean, they got another athletic wing, another athletic forward. I don't think I would expect anything out of Ron Holland in year one. I honestly would say that this guy is a project. You probably want to see him do some work with Fred Vincent, again, the guy that they brought over to create, to fix some of this shooting. And he didn't shoot particularly well last year. I believe it was like 24% from 3-point range, and then with the Ignite. But the thing is, the guy is super athletic. He's nasty attacking the rim. I would just say for next season, just hope to see flashes of the player that he could become, something like we saw with Asar Thompson. But I wouldn't expect him to be a significant contributor out the gate. I think this is a guy that they're going to take their time with the project, and he has a tremendous upside. He has high confidence in himself. He believes that when he gets to the league, that the shot that you've seen in the G League is going to be a lot better, and he's going to put in the work ethic for it. So it's a solid pick.
Last thing I have here, Kory, real quick. I just want to, and I think I asked you this last week, Kory, and you answered it well, or last time you were on. But now that all of these moves have happened, we have a coach now. The player, you have Tobias, Tim Hardaway. The draft has gone through. What is your kind of, because this morning when the Tobias stuff hit, like I said, there's the two sides of Pistons fans. One very, very high and very, very low. It's not really in the middle. Can you just give to the fans hey, these are the expectations for next year. We want to see them get to 20-something wins. Now we know essentially, hey, this is going to be the team. Obviously, they could still make more moves, but now we know, the leadership at hand in the vets at hand. What is it? Has your expectations now changed a little bit, saying, hey, let's get to 25 now, just see some improvement? Where are you at with that?
I'm glad you said that number, because that is the number that they need to shoot for, 25 wins. They have not won 25 games in a season in over 5 years.
Yep.
That should be the number. I mean, yeah, they have not won 25 games since they went 41-41 in Dwayne Casey's first year. So that needs to be the benchmark. Anything below that, yes, that is a failure. Anything above that, that is plus. This is still going to be a learning curve. I'm not sitting up here saying that like some people were trying to say, like, why would you add Tobias Harris if he doesn't instantly make you 10 games better? I don't think there's a player out there that made the Pistons 10 games better that that was available to them to sign. But you can make a collection of moves in the hiring of a smart coach like JB Bickerstaff that brings that 10 games. But yeah, I think 25 wins. I would say if you want to just go a tick above that, 28-ish. If you're between 25 and 28 wins next year, you're seeing improvement. Anything north of that is just like you start to question what was happening the past couple of years.
Well, we appreciate you, Kory, taking time. I didn't even know it was your vacation. This guy's a grinder, man. I mean,
appreciate you.
What are you up to?
You said what for vacation?
What do you got planned for your vacation? Yeah, what do you got planned?
Well, I got class tomorrow because I'm in grad school, but and then I'm going to go to a party here. That's Friday. I'll tell you about it, Jeff. You might have to come with me. And then
okay.
On Saturday, I'm going to Cancun.
Hey, let's go.
He's got the Clutch Sports, man. He's moving up, man. I appreciate you, Kory. Keep up the great work. You can check out Kory stuff, mlive.com, and follow him on all social media platforms. Link will be in the description. Kory, we appreciate you, brother. We'll catch you soon, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate you, Kory.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Kory Woods, man, the voice of reason.